You've done everything right by everyone else's standards, and you're still losing. Stick around. We're going to fix that today.
We're going live, baby.
We'll do it live.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host,
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer. He is a certified master life coach and NLP practitioner.
It's true. It's damn true. It's hump day again, guys, and we're halfway through the week. If you are new to the channel, my name is Paul Bauer. I help men level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about doing that is it tends to make us better men in all areas of our lives. All right. So here's what we're getting into today. I want you to stick around because this one's going to hit some spots most guys don't want to look at. There's a lot of men out there who've read everything, they've listened to everything, and they still can't figure out why the results with women aren't changing. The problem usually isn't what they know, it's what it's that they skipped the foundation entirely and built on top of a swamp. Which reminds me, have you guys ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail? And there's the scene with the dad, and he's like, "Someday you're gonna have all of this, and I built my kingdom on a swamp." And that one sunk into the swamp. So I built another one. Anyway, that's what you're doing. You're building all of this type of stuff on a swamp. Today, we're talking about what that foundation actually looks like, what it needs to be, why women respond to who you are right now and not who you were or who you're planning to become, and what you could do today to start working on that. If you've ever done everything by the book and still watch things fall apart, you're in the right place. Stay with me because by the end of this stream, you're going to see the whole thing differently. Now, I got the ideas for this episode from stuff that a guy named Chest Rockwell talked about a couple of years ago on Rob Says' podcast. And if you guys don't know who Chest is, you can follow him on Twitter. His username is @Rule0Dad. And he's a pretty interesting cat. And he did this multi-part interview with Rob a couple of years ago. And he really broke a lot of this, like the red pill type stuff down and to such a way that I don't think I'm going to do it justice today. So if you guys want to learn more about some of these ideas, and they're not like, when you hear them, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Why didn't anyone else say this stuff, right? If you guys want to go back, do a search on YouTube for Rob Says, and I think it's in his saved playlist. It's he called them the Salt Lake City Sit Down or something like that, and he did 2 episodes with Chest Rockwell on these subjects, and so that we're going to basically break down those ideas today. Right after that episode, like Chest wasn't following me at the time, and he had commented on a few of my posts, so like I think he knows who I am, but he wasn't following me, and he had his DMs closed, so I couldn't DM him and ask him to come on the show. So I tweeted at him, and I don't know if he saw it or he just ignored it or whatever. Anyway, I've been wanting to have him come on to talk about these ideas for a long time, and I finally just decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna fucking tell these ideas myself. They're good ideas, right? So the first one we have here is you have to know what you want before any of this stuff matters. Okay. And largely what we're going to be talking about today is why a lot of like online dating and relationship advice doesn't work for some of you guys. Right. And the reason why is because a lot of you guys don't know what you want. and some advice out there is tailored for a guy who wants specific results, but not everybody wants the same results. You know, what's interesting in this space, God, when I first started getting into red pill stuff, like going on 6 years now, 6 years ago, there was shit in the beginning where like they were teaching guys how to build harems and all this kind of stuff. And I would venture to say that a vast majority of dudes that tune into this stuff don't want to like manage a harem, right? Like it's like spinning plates is one thing and casually dating is one thing, but to literally have a harem of women, like where you got to live with like 5 or 6 of these chicks and then they all start ragging at the same time. That sounds awful to me. You know what I mean? So I would venture to say that most average dudes out there that tune into these types of podcasts, like that's not where their interest is. Like a vast majority of you guys still want like a traditional monogamous type of relationship with a good woman, right? Like that's what most guys want, I would say. Okay. The thing is that the stuff that I teach, it works for no matter what you want. And we'll get into that though, but you have to know what you want before any of this matters. So most guys consuming relationship content are collecting theories that don't point anywhere because they skip the first question. What do I actually want with my life, with a woman to look like? Like, and have you ever sat down and really thought about this? That's the whole purpose of creating a contenders list. And that I talk about in Everything I Wish I Knew when I was 18. And no matter how much I bang the drums about creating a contenders list, so in like knowing exactly what you want in a relationship, what you won't tolerate, all that kind of stuff. If you don't ever do that, then you're just going to settle for the first woman that's nice for you every single time, right? So you really got to figure out who do I want to spend my time with, and only spend your time with those types of women. You know what I mean? Like there's some women that might check most of your boxes, but they don't check all of them. Those women can only be plates. Okay. You don't be getting into the first relationship with a chick that's nice with you. Okay. Casual dating. Some guys, like, you don't know what you want, right? Do you want just casual dating? Do you want a girlfriend? Do you want a wife? Do you want to stay single forever? All of those are legitimate, like, answers, right? Like, what do you want? I just want to casually date. Cool. I want a girlfriend. Awesome. I want a wife. That sounds suspicious to me. No. Some of you, I'm just screwing around. Okay. There's some guys out there that still very much value the institution of marriage for whatever reason. Usually it's a religious reason or something. So usually those types of guys want a wife. Okay, fine. Do you want to just stay single forever and go MGTOW? Well, if that's what you want to do and you want to give up on women completely, my channel's not for you, because I don't work with quitters. You're right. But maybe go tune into Aaron Clary, right? He'll tell you a million reasons why women don't really like men all that much. And so just tune into that kind of stuff. Okay. But all of those are legitimate answers. But if you don't have one, okay, then every framework you pick is just, it's not going to point you in the right direction. It's not going to help you get to your ultimate goal. Okay. You're just, filling in information that you can never really use. Okay. So the stuff that we talk about on this show really only works as a tool if you already have a destination in mind. Now, I do give a lot of various tools because the way that I broke it down, dating and stuff, it really works no matter what you're going to do. Right. So even if you want a wife, I still recommend the same thing. You want to go out, you want to spin plates, you want to weigh your options, and you want to weigh these chicks against your contenders list and let the cream rise to the top. And then when you do, you will, if you are patient enough and you don't just settle and you just casually date and have fun, like facilitate fun. And we're past the 8-minute mark. You facilitate fun and fuck, test for interest, test for a woman's ability to follow your lead. Eventually you're going to find a woman that has high interest, that is investing all of her energy into you, and you're going to be able to really weed out the best of the best by not just settling. Okay. But you got to know what you want first, right? And then if you just want to casually date and whatever, you can just do that forever. It's fucking awesome. Okay. By the way, guys, I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail. Even if I'm traveling to WrestleMania tomorrow in a road trip with Nurse Chick to Las Vegas. So Friday's episode's pre-recorded. It's already done. We're going to be talking about Neville Goddard's book, The Power of Awareness, right? So it's Frame Friday. And he has a chapter in The Power of Awareness on free will that I just thought was fascinating. I don't know if I really if I really made the point I wanted to make by the end of that episode, but still it's pretty fascinating concept. So if you're into that kind of woo-woo spiritual type stuff, tune in on Friday. If not, stop by, drop a like, drop a comment, and bounce. That's okay too. And then Monday's episode is pre-recorded. We are on chapter 3 of my mini series on Keep Your Bitch. So that's already done too. But new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So you might be living someone else's blueprint. Okay. You might be living someone else's blueprint, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if that blueprint's going to get you where you want to go, right? Like a lot of the stuff that I teach is, it's a mix of Corey Wayne stuff, Dr. Robert Glover stuff, Christopher Campbell stuff, a little bit of Rollo sprinkled in there. But, those blueprints helped me get where I wanted to go. And I think they're going to help a lot of you guys get where you want to go too. But you got to understand what you want first, right? So you might be living someone else's blueprint. A lot of men who did everything right by external standards, got the wife, the house, the whole picture, woke up miserable because they never actually chose any of it, right? This describes me perfectly when I was a young man. Right. And probably a lot of you guys too, where I was running for that white picket fence. You know, I was like every girl I dated in high school, every girl that I dated after high school, I was trying to make every one of them my wife. Right. And I was like, I want to have kids. I want to have 2.5 kids in the white picket fence. And so I married my now ex-wife when I wasn't even old enough to drink yet. I wasn't even 21 when we got married. You know, we eloped, and it was just like part of that was the Navy's incentive to get you BAH so you could live out in town, right? So you can get some money to live out in town. That was a big motivator. But also, you know, I was going to be a provider, and I was going to make sure she was taken care of and all this kind of stuff because society told me that's what you have to do. You the only reason why to date is to get married, right? That's the only reason. you can't just facilitate fun and fuck. That's terrible. That's what do they call that? That's degenerate behavior, right? But that's because they're telling you how to live your life. They're not telling you how to live a life that you want to live. You understand? You're living society's blueprint, not what you want to do. How many of you guys have done that, right? You're doing what you think is the right thing to do, but have you ever sat down to think why is that the right thing to do for me? You know, most people don't even think about that stuff. That's what this book's all about, like identifying some of those paradigms that you have, those programs that you've been programmed with, you know, since you were a kid. You've been like up until like 7 years old or something like that. You're just a walking sponge, and you're taking in what everyone tells you to do. And that creates these programs that you operate on without any conscious thought. So when someone says, well, why'd you get married? Well, it's the right thing to do. According to who? Right? Oh, the Bible. The Bible says, right? Okay. But yeah, so some of these blueprints, they come from your church, your parents, your culture. They all handed you a set of expectations before you were old enough to even question them. And most guys never stop to ask whether they actually want what they're pursuing, right? And a lot of guys won't. Because they don't even know to ask. They're so operating within this paradigm that they don't even realize that they're in this paradigm. You know what I mean? You know, I've been talking about it a lot lately because I've been listening to it for weeks now. It's like a 37-hour long book called Reality Transurfing, and it's written by a Russian guy, and he calls this type of thing, like, he gets pretty esoteric about it, and so he refers to these energy constructs as pendulums. Okay, now whether you want to look at it like that they're energy constructs or not, it's fine. You can look at it from a physical reality point of view, where there's anything that draws you in that kind of makes you not think for yourself. And he calls these things pendulums. And if you think about it, there's tons of them out there. Like everything out there is fighting for a piece of your mind and telling you what to believe and what to think. Even red pill does it too a little bit, right? If you think about it. And so what people often do is they don't think for themselves. They're told what to think, and they just ride along with these pendulums. You see it in politics, right? You'll see people that identify with one side or identify with the other, and they don't really do any thinking for themselves, just whatever the politicians above them tell them to think. They parrot it all day long on social media, and they get in fights with everybody for no reason. They're really not doing anything except for feeding this pendulum, right? Without ever thinking about it. And so what's fascinating about red pill, for instance, without trying to make it a pendulum, because there's red pill and blue pill, right? And if you're not red pill, you ain't shit. You're a fucking blue pill simp bullshit. Whatever. And you got to sort of break away from that kind of stuff too. And what's interesting is that when you're in it, you don't really realize it until you hit rock bottom. You hit rock bottom. Everything that you thought you believed didn't work out the way you thought it would. And so now you go searching for answers. And that's usually how people end up in red pill, because red pill is supposed to be about objective reality, even though I don't know if there's truly anything that's objective about reality, but that's for another philosophical show. But that's really where we start getting you to question some of these paradigms. And the thing is that, guys, this is one of the reasons why you can't red pill your friends, is because when you're so in the middle of the paradigm, you don't want to hear anything outside of it, right? You've got this ego protection layer that will reject anything that tells you differently, right? And so a lot of the times you have to hit rock bottom to have that ego protection layer shattered, or at least damaged enough where you can get the truth to come in, right? Or at least allow you to question what do you actually want, in reality surfing, they talk about it like you need to if you look at it like it's a pendulum, right? So it's a good sort of visual to realize that there's a pendulum and it swings one way or the other. And when you're in the pendulum, you're swinging with it. So like life is chaotic, right? Life is chaotic. It keeps going like this. So you need to rise above it to up here where the swing isn't, you're not you're not controlled by the swing of it. Okay. It allows you to look down on the situation from almost like a third party observer and really inspect, is this really what I want for myself? Is this where you're rising in conscious? That's for Friday's woo-woo shit. Okay. Anyway, so before you apply anyone's advice, including mine, you have to step outside of all that and ask what you genuinely want. You actually have to sit down and figure out, what do I want my life to look at? We did this exercise in the Wolf Pack. We do a private pod class every month. By the way, the next month's pod class, we're supposed to have legendary porn star Eric Everhard give us another presentation for the group. So get in Wolf Pack now, and you can join us for that. It's going to be live. He's going to give us he did it once a year or two ago, and it was a phenomenal thing because, Eric, he was in the porn business for 20, 25 years or so like that. He's slept with over 4,000 women. Guy's a sex genius. In fact, a lot of my new book that's coming out here in June, it's called Dick Her Down Right. A lot of it are concepts that I learned from Eric, and I also give you information on how to join his community and take his courses and stuff like that. Because you guys might like my courses, but in his courses, he's literally showing you. It's hilarious because he let me in on some of the stuff. And so I'm watching one of his courses, and he's showing you how to eat pussy, right? But he's got a chick here that he's eating out, and he's sitting there eating her out, and then he turns to the camera. He goes, "Now, do you see right here?" And it's how is she not fucking laughing during the shit, bro? I asked him that, and he goes, "Oh no, there's several times where she had to stop, and we had to take a laughing break, because it is fucking funny how he's all into it, she's into it, and then he just stops and looks at the camera okay, now do you see her?" It's fucking hilarious shit. Anyway, attraction is not tied to your current state, not your history. There's no such thing as relationship equity. So this idea that Chesty was talking about comes from like self-improvement. Okay, because a lot of what we're doing for, say, stuff like get her to fuck you again, right? A lot of get her to fuck you again is about realizing that you've let yourself go, you've let yourself fall into complacency, and now you're trying to fix your damaged relationship by self-improvement, right? Through self-improvement. But a lot of guys get frustrated and they want to give up and quit because they're not seeing like immediate results. And the thing is that with women, everything is, what have you done for me lately? And how do I feel about you right now in the present moment? Right? So it doesn't matter how awesome you were in the past. There's no relationship equity. And it doesn't matter that you're trying to improve yourself in that in like, 3 months, 3 to 6 months, you're going to be a completely different man with strong mental frame. You're going to set the tone and lead the relationship. Doesn't fucking matter, because she only gives a shit about how she feels about you right now in the present. Right? So if you do have any hopes of turning shit around, you got to be fucking patient. Okay. Signs follow, they don't proceed, right? So Chesty says, women respond to who you are right now, not who you were 5 years ago or who you're planning to become. If you get sick, you lose your income, you stop being the guy she found compelling, the attraction changes. Okay. So you got to understand that and stop taking it personally and start focusing on where you actually are. Okay. If that, this also works in dating, the dating market too. Like if you're not getting the results you want on the dating circuit, you got to look at the package that you're presenting, because a lot of, especially online dating, it's marketing, right? So maybe your pictures suck. Maybe your bio sucks. Okay. Maybe the way that you text and banter with women sucks. Maybe, you spend too much time jaw jacking online instead of getting them in person. Right? Like there's all sorts of things that you might need to work on now in order to get better results, but you're not going to get the results you are in your current state. Okay. And you can't expect women to look at that and go, oh, well, he will be better. He will be better. You've got to present yourself now, because now is the only time to work with anyway. Right. So the more useful question is, what are you doing right now to stay in a state worth being attracted to? And that a lot of that is what I'm talking about in Keep Your Bitch, right? Keep Your Bitch is all about maintaining that attraction in the long term, because there is no such thing as relationship equity, right? And there's this thing called Breifeld's Law, which means that the female, not the male, determine whether a relationship's going to take place, which means that the relationship is technically her job to keep intact, but it's your job to be a man worth keeping. And that only works if you're always working on yourself. You're never getting complacent, right? Now, going back to what do you actually want? Do you because there's a lot of MGTOW guys that are like, it's not worth it. I don't want to spend the rest of my life self-improving, right? I want to be able to just relax and drink a couple of beers and play video games and have a problem-free life, right? And so if that's you, then maybe relationships aren't for you. But that goes back to figure out what you want first, right? So if you're a guy that just wants to, a woman to just accept me for who I am, I want to do no self-improvement, I want to be able to get fat, then meet a girl who also wants to get fat and let herself go. And if you're okay with having an unattractive fat wife down the road, then you don't need this, okay? Like that's... But hypergamy always is working. It's always working. So if she finds a guy who, maybe she finds a brother that likes chubby chicks, and but he's still got six-pack abs, maybe she's going to think twice about being with the fat, lazy guy and go with the brother that likes thick chicks with six-pack abs, right? That's what you got to deal with, okay? So you really got to figure out what's more important to you. And then another concept here is repulsion to weakness is not a character flaw in women. Now this is an interesting concept that Chesty comes up with, because a lot of guys online, especially in the red pill manosphere space will talk all sorts of mad shit about women and women's standards and what women won't tolerate and how they only go for the top tier guys and whatever, like all this kind of shit. And it's almost like these black pillars and MGTOW guys are trying to convince women to settle for losers, right? No. You shouldn't like all these top tier guys that make a shitload of money, that stay in great shape, and they're always working on themselves. That's terrible of you to have standards like that, bitches, right? You need to be able to settle for losers like me, okay? It's not a character flaw. If you look at it from that standpoint, like, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they want to be with the best possible guy that they can get with? That sounds perfectly logical and smart. It's even when you look at it from a evolutionary standpoint, like, why the fuck wouldn't they? And then you need to ask yourself, why the fuck wouldn't you? Okay. And the thing is that men aren't necessarily wired the same way as women are. Women are wired, to be hypergamous, to be consolidate on their best possible option, right? The perfect mix of alpha and beta traits, a guy that, is hot as hell, that makes her vagina wet, that also will provide for her and her kids. Like, that sounds like the perfect package. Why wouldn't she go for that? But then you got guys who are polygamous by nature, which means we'll essentially fuck anything that moves. We want variety, and we also like have unconditional love for most of these women, or at least most of us do, right? We have unconditional love. So we chose this woman. We decided, I'm picking her. I don't care how fat she gets. And then you just, this is how life is supposed to be. And then you're miserable because you never actually chose that life. That was a paradigm you were programmed with. Anyway, we can go on that forever. But anyway, you got to look at that women, the way women are programmed, it's not a character flaw. It's a feature. It's a feature. Okay. If you look at it as a feature for the human race, it makes sense. Like, why wouldn't she want to get with the best genes possible and keep the best genes going for our species, right? The ones that have the best chance of survival. So when a woman withdraws because you've gone soft physically, financially, emotionally, she's responding to reality. And blaming her for that is about as useful as blaming gravity for keeping your feet on the ground. It doesn't make sense to blame women for their programming. It's kind of like, Rich Cooper talked about it years ago. He was driving a truck. And he was like being mad at women for being women and being, hypergamous in nature and being how they're programmed. It's like being mad at this truck for not being a Ferrari. He's like, this truck was never designed to be a Ferrari. It's designed for other things. It's designed to, to carry stuff to the dump. It's designed to haul stuff. It's not designed to go around corners at 200 miles an hour, But it was never supposed to do that. Well, women, a lot of the reason why guys get frustrated with women is because they're expecting women to act like men. And they're not men. They're fundamentally not. They don't think the same way. They don't have the same chemicals in their bodies. They have, different things going on. They're largely led by their emotions. They're completely different. So hating them for being different makes no sense. Okay. The most useful question is, what are you doing to stay in a state that keeps attraction alive, not how you convince her to override her instincts. So that's really where like a lot of my work comes in. It's all about understanding women's nature, and then how do we strategize around that to use it to our advantage. Like if you follow me on social media, you'll see that my official title is hypergamy relationship strategist, right? Because that's really what I'm teaching guys what to do, how to be more strategic in dating and relationships so that you have the best chance of making it work. So I want you guys to think back to the last time you went soft on something, your health, your finances, your standards, and tell me honestly, did she get more attracted to you or less? Let me know in the chat or the comments. Okay. All right. This could be a long episode. I'm jaw jacking a lot. So But that usually means I'm going to get some good social media clips out of it. I don't know. Now, here's one that a lot of like blue-pilled nice guys don't understand. A lot of like Christian, Christian guys, they don't want to believe this. But you got to understand that sexual desire has to come first. Sexual desire has to come first, not last. And this is why when you're trying to take the friendship route to a woman's heart, it rarely works out in your favor. If you are going on dates and a chick is saying, I won't sleep with you, I won't sleep with you, and she makes you wait 3 months or until you're exclusive or until you're married to have sex with you, like the relationships almost never get better. They never get better because she doesn't have that strong sexual desire for you. Okay. So Chessie said like the whole model where you, and by the way, what I'm reading here isn't verbatim what he said. It's paraphrasing, but the whole model where you earn sex by being helpful enough around the house is backwards. Most guys who've been in a long relationship know exactly what I'm talking about with that. We call it chore play. And that's what a lot of guys have been conditioned to do. There's, oh God, was it Mr. Clean? Mr. Clean had a commercial years ago where he's all mopping, all sexy and stuff, and like the housewife is all like, oh, hot and bothered by him fucking, cleaning shit, doing the dishes and stuff like that. It's like that's propaganda to try to get guys to do more work around the house. But so guys are conditioned to believe that. They're like, yeah. Oh, if I fold the laundry and stuff like that. And then Christian online Christian advice will propagate that. There was this channel on X before I got banned that was constantly putting out videos like this, where the husband's like, when you're trying to get your wife in the mood, and the guy walks up and he's like, I folded all the laundry, and he whispers in her ear and he's like, oh, and the dishes are done, and I've got dinner on the stove ready for you and stuff, right? Basically, like that's supposed to be seductive, right? And then women will propagate this because they're like, yeah, I could use some help. Like I could use a fucking slave, right? And then when it comes to collecting what's due to you, she's like, oh, I got a headache tonight. Oh, let's do it some other time. I know I promised you. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad, but I'm not going to. Because it's not fucking sexy. It's anti-seductive. Okay, so that doesn't work. Attraction and domestic service have nothing to do with each other. If you're trying to trade one for the other, you're in her frame. You're operating in her frame. And if a woman consistently doesn't want to sleep with you, the honest answer is almost always about attraction, not her having a low libido, right? And that's what I talk about like almost every Monday. Every Monday, it's not a libido issue. It's not a medical issue. It's an attraction issue, right? It's not a communication issue. You need to communicate more. You need to tell her your feelings and be more vulnerable. That's not it. That's not it. She doesn't want to fuck you. Man, I think it was 2 years ago now. I was having a conversation with this entrepreneur, this guy, multimillionaire. He was in his late 40s or whatever, and we were doing this same business coaching thing, and he was asking me like what I do, and I was like, oh, I help men, dead bedroom situations and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, that's a fascinating line of work. And we started talking about it, and he was like, yeah, he goes, before my divorce, we got to a place where we were basically in a dead bedroom. My wife didn't want to fuck me. She had all sorts of excuses and all this kind of stuff. And he goes, and then when we did divorce, he goes, she immediately was like fucking every dude in town, and he's like, so that's how her excuse for him was, oh, I just have low libido. I'm just really not into sex and whatever. No. She's not, she has a low libido for you. She doesn't want to fuck you. Okay. And so what's interesting is in my dead bedroom coaching, I've had a number of one-on-one clients where they were Christian guys. They got with the girl. She made them wait because she was a Christian too, right? So they waited and waited, and they thought, okay, now that we're married, we're going to have this wonderful sex life. And it was like, no, she just didn't want to fuck you. She didn't want to fuck you. That's why she made you wait. And that's why, you know, guys like Rich Cooper says that women make rules for betas and they break them for alphas. Okay. Now, if you don't like the word alpha and beta, because a lot of people get hurt by that, you could say women break rules for guys that they're sexually attracted to, and they make rules for guys that they're not sexually attracted to. Okay. That's just a fundamental fact. So when you're out dating and you're trying to find a woman that has genuine desire for you, that wants to fuck your brains out all the time, but you have like a Madonna whore complex. So you think, oh, well, women who do that, well, they're slooty sloots, and I couldn't possibly be in a relationship with a woman like that. I'm going to go with a good girl that's making me wait 3 months. You got it all backwards, bro. You got it all backwards. The woman who will break rules for you and say like, oh, we're not having sex tonight. And then you playfully say, well, you know, you're the one that brought it up. Right. And then when you don't like start, you know, oh, of course not, you know, I wouldn't even dream of it. Like, I want to make sure that you're a good girl, for like all that kind of stuff. If you just play it off like, well, you're the one who brought it up, you're going to have sex that night. Okay. It's a shit test. Her saying that shit didn't rattle you. That makes her more attracted. You're going to fuck. Okay. You're going to fuck. And then because she finds you sexually attractive, okay, you want to start from there and then build off of that. Okay, that's genuine desire, right? It's not a matter of good girl versus fucking bad girl nonsense, okay? Low libido is often a diagnosis men give themselves to avoid the real answer. So it's a more comfortable conclusion than the actual one, but comfort doesn't fix anything. If a woman has low desire specifically with you, but not in general, that's a different conversation than a medical issue, right? And that's 9 times out of 10. And even if it is a medical issue, right? Because they're like, let's be real. And Rollo's been talking about this quite a bit lately. Like women, you know, post like after 40 that are starting to get into menopause and all that kind of stuff. Because there's a lot of this stuff in the red pill space that, well, if she's not fucking you, she's fucking somebody. But Rollo's got all these new statistics saying, no, women after 40 that are starting to get into menopause, like they're happy. They're happy to be in a non-sexual situation. They're happy that you're providing all that kind of stuff. They just don't have any interest in it anymore. They're not motivated, right? They're because they don't find you sexually attractive anymore. But the thing is that a woman who really still finds you sexually attractive, she's going to figure it out. She's going to go to her doctor and go, I don't like this. I don't like that I can't have sex with my husband anymore. Like, can I get on HRT? Is there something we can do about this? And there's solutions for all this kind of stuff. Okay. If she's motivated because she's sexually attracted to you, she's going to do something to fix that shit. But if she doesn't find you sexually attractive, it's going to be a very convenient excuse. Okay. It's going to be a very convenient excuse. And she's just going to be happy to let you fucking pay for everything while not fucking you, you know? So usually it's an attraction issue. And then you'll even find it where they might be perfectly satisfied not fucking you and not doing anything about their hormone issues. And then you get fed up with it and get divorced. And then now she's back on the dating circuit realizing, oh, I need my sexuality if I'm going to find a husband. And then she does something about it. And now all of a sudden she's horny again because she's on HRT. And then she's fucking all the dudes in town. Okay. So most guys don't want to have that conversations with themselves, which is exactly why their situation doesn't change, you know? And I see it all the time in the comments with, you know, when I'm promoting Get Her to Fuck You Again and stuff like that. All these guys never want to look at what they can do to change their situation. It's always her. I got to fix her. It's got about, no, tell her to fuck me more because I'm perfectly okay. But the thing is you can't control her. The only variable that you can ever control is yourself. Okay. Now maybe your variable is I'm just going to remove myself from that situation and never work on myself. But then you find that, you know, guys after 30, guys after 40, dating is not this fucking walk in the park. And we talk about in the red pill space a lot that, you know, men just get better with age. Men age like fine wine and women age like cheese and all this kind of shit. It's like, only if you're working on yourself. You still have to work on yourself. You still got to go to the gym. You still got to be an attractive guy for that statement to be true. So, but a lot of guys don't. They think, okay, well, I'm just going to replace her. And then they flounder on the dating circuit. They get pissed off at women and go MGTOW. It's because they never want to look inward and figure out what the fuck can they do, right? How can I improve my situation? All right. Now, this concept here is really an interesting one that a lot of guys don't even think about. But online, and even now, a lot, on my podcast, we do it a lot. But we talk about women in the abstract. What does that mean? A lot of guys in these online spaces have built entire worldviews about women without actually spending much time around them socially. Okay, so when I tell you this is how women act, this is what women are attracted to, this is women's nature, this is how they're programmed, and this is what they respond to. I'm explaining it to you from a place of women in as a whole, right? I'm not talking about like individual women. This is where not all women come into play. But when we're explaining strategy, we have to put it in the macro like that so that you can eventually go out there and test this out in the micro level, right? Down with the individual women. You eventually need to go out and practice some of this shit. Otherwise, it's all just theory, right? And so when we're talking about strategy and techniques and, shit tests and all that kind of stuff, we're really talking about it in the abstract, and it doesn't make any fucking sense until you actually go out and test some of this stuff out, right? So what's funny is one of the things that Chesty points out is that women have been they've been receiving male attention and navigating social dynamics since around 13. Basically, men have been trying to fuck her since she's 13. She has way more experience dealing with men than men have dealing with women. Okay. So if you picked up your first book on this shit at 27, you're already behind on lived experience. And it really, no amount of theory is going to close that gap. You have to go out and test this shit out. Okay. Now, that's why one of the reasons why I wrote Everything I Wish I Knew when I was 18, because I wish I knew this shit when I was 18. And even at 18, you're behind, right? Because she's been dealing with this shit since she's 13. Right. But I wrote this to give guys a leg up when they're younger, but it still works for you if you haven't read this shit until you're 20 and 30 and 40. Like, this stuff still applies. You just got to know that you're behind and you've got some fucking practice to do. You got to go out and test some of this shit. And if you don't go out and test any of this shit, it's just fucking mental masturbation.
Tired of wasting time on dead-end dates and attracting the wrong women? You put in the effort, but end up with dates that go nowhere, or relationships that fizzle out before they even start. You're tired of it. Dating shouldn't feel like a never-ending chore. And you know deep down that you're capable of attracting a woman who sees your value. The problem? You haven't been taught how to attract the right women and keep them. What if you could date efficiently, quickly filtering out the women who aren't right for you, and instead attract high-quality women who are genuinely interested? What if, when you found the right one, you knew exactly how to maintain that attraction for the long haul? With Everything I Wish I Knew when I was 18, you'll learn exactly how to master the dating game, how to identify and attract high-quality women, how to weed out the ones wasting your time, and how to keep that attraction burning in a long-term relationship. This isn't about playing games. It's about developing the confidence and mindset to naturally draw the right women to you, while keeping the spark alive for years to come. Don't waste another day chasing the wrong women. Grab your copy of Everything I Wish I Knew when I was 18 and start mastering the art of efficient dating. Find the right woman and keep her.
Indeed. Let's go through the chat here and then we'll continue on. Chad Elkins, the world's greatest CPA. Happy tax day. Good to see you, brother. I'm supposed to be live streaming on Chad's channel later this afternoon, guys. So go give him a subscribe, and we're all gonna hang out after that because he celebrates tax day every year with a live stream. with the folks. Brother Erkin's well, he's not really a brother because he just refuses to join Wolfpack. So Erkin is in the house. Good to see you, man. Why are you not watching on Kick right now? Nurse Chick's in the house. She says, good morning, gentlemen. Happy hump day. Vegas bound tomorrow. That's right. Cappy's never going to let us stay with him again after this one.
I'm so naughty.
Because she's naughty.
I'm going to come.
When I will.
Pussy must be ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, guys. I already told Nurse Chick, I'm going to have to cover your mouth the whole time. And you're just going to have to take this shit. You're just going to have to take this dick, babe. And she's like, oh, stop doing that. Shh. Erkin says, is this live or a recorded video? This is live. We are live. Fuck it. And then, but Friday and next Monday's episode are pre-recorded. Ty's in the house. Good to see you, brother. Morning, guys. Let's see here. Where is the like button on Kick? Good question. I don't spend any time on Kick, so I basically like live stream dump to Kick, and I don't know. We'll see if the channel grows. I don't know. I have 10 whole followers on Rumble though. I don't mean to brag, but I'm kind of a big deal. I got 10 whole followers on fucking Rumble. Darfin says, smashing that like button is alpha as fuck. Happy hump day, fellas. Ty says, getting soft on things destroys attraction. It does. Yeah. Urka says, what is Paul reading? An article? Any link? No, I'm not reading an article. I've got notes from a live stream that Rob Says a couple of years ago did a interview with a guy named Chest Rockwell. Chest Rockwell's not his real name, but Chesty is he's kind of he's kind of well known in like the married red pill space, and he's certainly known by all the Rule Zero guys. Everyone knows Chesty, and he did a sit down with Rob and talked about all this kind of stuff. And so I took notes from those two interviews and just compiled them all together in one single thing. So that's where we're just going through Chesty's notes today. No article. But if you go to Rob Says' channel and look for Salt Lake City Sit Down, I think it is, you can watch that interview. Ty says, so much easier to blame someone else than it is to put in the work and change. It really is. Yeah. And then Urka says, I watch on Kick, but comment via YouTube. I can see your comments on Kick though, brother. So you can just, if you're not giving a super chat or anything, you can just hang out on Kick. Cause I know you don't like the commercials on YouTube. That's fine. I get it. Okay. So going off of what we were talking about before, right? Talk about women in the abstract, which is really just, it's just theory. Just talk about theory about women and what women respond to. That's what Chesty means by talking about women in the abstract. But theory without experience is just mental masturbation. Now, what's fascinating about this is when I was coming out of the original 3% Man group, which is where the podcast started. That's, by the way, guys, Come on, man is not a hat tip to fucking Joe Biden. Okay. It's not. People say that all the time. They're like, oh, why would you name your channel after something Joe Biden says? I was having the name of this channel before he ran for president. Okay. It's actually a hat tip to Corey Wayne. Cause this channel came out of the 3% Man group. We were all studying Corey Wayne stuff. So Come on, man is a Corey Wayneism, and it's a hat tip to Corey. But one thing I would see in that 3% Man group is guys like Corey says you're supposed to read his book 10 to 15 times. There's a reason why I say that in like most of my books too. If you want to retain the information, you have to read the material 10 to 15 times to fully grasp it and to make it a part of who you are, to wire that as a part of your paradigm, because we only retain 10% of what we read or listen to. So if you want to master the information, you have to, listen to it multiple times. Well, there was a lot of guys in that group that they wouldn't even go out dating. They wouldn't even try it yet. They wouldn't even go out until they've read the book 10 to 15 times. Then they would go out. Right. And it's like, you're doing yourself a disservice, because by the time you're done reading 10 to 15 times, you still haven't had any practice and you're still going to fuck it up. You're still going to fuck it up, man. So what Chesty was saying was that you can basically memorize terminology from every podcast and book out there and still be completely useless in an actual interaction with a woman. Frameworks are useful for making sense of things after they happen, but they don't replace having been through the things. And so what I would tell guys to do is don't do that, right? read everything I wish I knew when I was 18. Okay. Take it through a pass and then go out and practice some of this shit. And what you'll find is you'll see women doing the shit I talk about in the book. And then when you go back and read it a second time, you'll go, oh, I experienced that. I know exactly what Paul's talking about there. I know this is how I handled it. Or, oh, I didn't handle it right. Paul said to handle it this way. I'll remember that next time. You see, without that practice, you don't get that. You just get theory bubbling around your head that's meaningless. And one thing that I found was that some of the shit in Corey's book didn't work for me. Like some of the stuff that you talk about fundamentally didn't work for me. And so I would read like Dr. Glover's book and Dating Essentials for Men, and like the stuff he said in there, that worked for me. Okay, well, I'm going to incorporate what worked in my toolbox and I'm going to leave what didn't. And eventually you've got to create your own, I like to call it your own style of Kung Fu, your own style of red pill Kung Fu, which means you take from these different masters and make your own fucking style. Okay. The guys who are good with women are good because of repetition and attention, not because they found the right guru. Okay. Now there's nothing wrong with finding certain guys whose advice resonates, but you've got to eventually take that information and make it your own somehow. And some of the stuff I tell you worked for me, but it might not work for you. So then you've got to find a different style or whatever to fill in that gap. I recommend guys get their own, holy trinity of books and stuff like that. And don't just use my stuff. I did an episode on this a year or two ago called like Red Pill Kung Fu. And the reason why I came up with that episode was because I was watching Ip Man. I was watching like the Ip Man series. I don't know if you guys have watched Ip Man. Fucking awesome fight scenes and shit, right? They're based on the true teacher, like Bruce Lee's teacher. Bruce Lee's kung fu teacher in China was a real guy named Ip Man, and so these movies are loosely based on his life. And there's a scene where Ip Man goes to a town, and he's confronted by all the kung fu masters in town, and they all have their own styles, and they have to fight on these tabletops, and whoever gets knocked off the tabletop like loses. And like if they're able to beat Ip Man, he's not allowed to teach his style in town or some shit like that. So he's got to fight every one of their styles to prove that his style is good enough to be in town. Anyway, I got this idea of how, like Rollo's one style and like Corey Wayne's one style and like Christopher Canwell's one style. And so like, if you incorporate it all into one master style for yourself, you'll do much better. Okay. But you got to fucking practice it too. Let's see here. You stay two people, not one thing. So this one is something that he was talking about when it comes to a relationship. And a lot of people get this wrong. And Dr. Glover does talk about this in Dating Essentials for Men. He talks about this concept of fusion and how when you get two people together and, you spend too much time together, you start fusing personalities and stuff like that. And that a lot of that comfort and familiarity starts killing attraction. But what Chesley said was the moment you start organizing your identity around the relationship, making her preferences your preferences, dropping your hobbies because she doesn't share them, that's when the slow erosion starts, right? It doesn't feel like a big deal in the moment, but each concession is a small reduction in who you are. And after years of it, you end up resentful and unrecognizable to yourself. Okay. This is why this is a big problem with looking at your girl like she's your best friend. This is a problem with looking at your girl like she's your partner, because it's a slow, unconditional, slow drip to kill that attraction. Okay. If you want to keep that attraction going in the long term, you have to be the same attractive guy you were in the beginning. And the guy who in the beginning wasn't fused with her personality. He had his own personality. He had his own shit going on. He had his own mission and purpose. He had hobbies. He had things he was interested in. And she just wanted to come along for the ride. And you slowly, thinking that she's your partner, started deferring to her authority, wanting her buy-in on everything, started doing whatever she wanted to do. And that slowly kills attraction through the betatization process. Okay. And it's unconscious. Most of you guys don't even know what's happening to you. She doesn't even know she's doing it to you. Okay. So if you want to avoid that, you've got to stay out of that betaization process. The reason she was attracted to you is because you had a life. Giving up that life to be with her doesn't make the relationship better. It actually will kill it in the long run. So you can't do that kind of shit. You got to keep a sense of self. Keep the relationship sort of like a thing you guys share, but you're still separate people, right? Doing your own thing, working on your own shit, and then you come together. Okay. That is a better way of managing this thing and never losing yourself. And it's certainly not deferring to her. And then he refers to a death by 1,000 concessions. So no single compromise kills the relationship. It's the pattern of them over years that does it. Most guys can't point to the moment things went wrong because there wasn't one moment usually. Sometimes you can. There were 1,000 ones that all seemed reasonable at the time. And by the time you notice it, the distance is so built up that reversing it is like a complete overhaul of how you two operate, you know? And that's really what it is. Like, and that's where the 1,000-foot tow rope comes in from Ryan Stone's books, right? Or at least from Dread. The 1,000-foot tow rope is it didn't get there overnight, and it's not gonna reverse itself overnight. It's going to be a slow, gradual change over time, right? And so if the best thing to do is never let this happen in the first place, which is what Keep Your Bitch is about if you're in a new relationship. But get her to fuck you again is largely about getting back to the beginning of the betaization process and then never letting yourself fall back below it again. Okay, that's really what that comes down to. By the way, guys, if you're getting value out of this episode, do consider sending a super chat. That supports the show more than anything else. If you're on Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook, they're called stars. You can leave stars. I don't know how that works, but you can leave stars. And then if you're watching on Kick, I don't know if I'm monetized yet. I might be. Like, you have to have 5 hours of Kick streaming before you're able to receive gifts and shit on that. But either way, just come over to fucking YouTube. Anyway, YouTube's better. All right. Let's see here. Man, this is going to be a long episode. I'm going to see if I can wrap these up a little bit quicker. So when she gets difficult, she's not checking. She's checking, not attacking. So arguments, testing, pushback, a lot of that is a woman trying to determine whether you still have a handle on things. This is where shit tests and comfort checks come in a long-term relationship. She's going to periodically test this stuff to make sure that you got everything handled. And what guys who are turning things around, what they'll find is that their woman's going to test them even harder because this new version of you, she likes it, but she doesn't trust that it's really who you are yet. She's seen how you've been over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And all of a sudden you're lifting weights and you're acting slicker and you're saying, you're not, being led by your emotions and yelling at her when she challenges things. You fucking play it off like she's a the most responsible teenager in the house. And she's like, I don't understand this. So she's going to test harder to make sure this is really you, And if you respond with long explanations or defensiveness, you're signaling that you're uncertain too, which confirms what she was worried about, right? This is why we say don't dear, right? Never dear, always Luca. Never dear, always Luca. Use the tools, fogging, all that kind of stuff. Agree and amplify, all that kind of stuff. The most useful response is calm, not dismissive, but calm. That demonstrates the kind of competency she's actually looking for. Like really just women just want to make sure that you can handle life. They want to make sure that you can handle life. So they'll test you to see if he can't handle me, how is he going to handle a real problem? And most guys can't handle women at all. They've never been trained. There's books on this stuff. I've got books on it, but most guys don't even read the books until they've gotten dumped or, their wife's not fucking them. Like they've gone through some kind of hell that shows reality to them. Reality slaps them in the face. That slaps that wife goggles off their face. And they realize, oh shit, everything that I thought I knew about women is wrong. I better start figuring out like a better strategy, And so you're not taught this stuff. In fact, all your relationship skills you learn from your dad, and your dad probably lets lets your mom walk all over him. And this is a good one. You guys might hear me say this shit all the time, right? But longevity doesn't prove a relationship was good. That's actually something I got from Chesty, right? Because a lot of guys will say, I've been married 30 years. I've been married 25 years or whatever. And so I always ask them, yeah, how's the sex? Because that'll tell you if the relationship is really good or not. Okay. If you're 30 years in and she's still enthusiastically fucking you, multiple times a week, if not nightly, then you've got a good relationship. That's a great relationship where the sex stays alive. You guys still have that passion for each other, but a vast majority of you guys aren't like that. Vast majority of you guys, you might get sex once a week, maybe once a month, maybe on holidays. If that's you, you're in a fucking dead bedroom situation. You need to fix that shit. Okay. But longevity by itself doesn't mean shit, which is funny. I just heard MLD say this. He was in some kind of debate with Cappy because Cappy's latest book came out, and Cappy, all of Cappy's books, I love Cappy's books, but all of them are about how women just don't like men that much. Right. And so John was pushing back on him. MLD was pushing back on him. He goes, that's just not true. Like, we wouldn't be here if women didn't like men at least a little bit, And then one of the things that he said was, 50% of marriages end in divorce, but that means that 50% of people still stay together. Well, you'll hear that stat, but if you read Ryan Stone's books, Ryan says that, yeah, but of the 50% that stay together, only half of those even self-report being happy in their relationship. The other, they're still, so that's basically a 75% failure rate. Okay. So yeah, 50% might still be together after 30 years, but they're not fucking anymore. And so how happy are you really? Right. So longevity doesn't prove a relationship was good. 30 years together doesn't mean 30 years of a good relationship. It means 30 years of two people who were afraid to leave. We use the length of a marriage as a proxy for quality, but they have almost nothing to do with each other. What actually matters is whether both people genuinely want to be there at each point along the way. Okay. So that's a Chestyism that I share periodically. By the way, if you want to swap notes about all this stuff, because that's what Red Pill really is, get in the Wolf Pack. It's a great place to swap notes.
Beer club? Not anymore.
Wolf Pack, you fix what's broken. You lead like a man again. No pity, no therapy. Just fire, just flame. Cold bed, broken home, midlife drift, feeling alone. You don't need hacks, blogs, lies. You need men with fire in their eyes. We rebuild from the ground up. No excuses, no soft stuff. Telegram lit 24/7. Brothers locked in, steel, not heaven. Step inside the pack. We don't fall, we attack. Truth, fire, presence, we bring it back. Masculine pride, no time to slack. Step inside the pack. Drop your past, claim your track. No therapy talk, no playing small. We sharpen blades, we take it all.
Ooh, too sweet me for that one. By the way, we're having our hangout next week on Thursday. So if you guys sign up for the Wolfpack tomorrow, you can join the 7-day free trial. Come and hang out in the Telegram group. And then if you like it, hang out for the hangout on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern next week after I get back from Vegas. Okay. I'm going to try to get through these last ones quicker. See, I think this was a 2-part episode. So of course there's a lot of ideas here. Marriage is a legal contract, not a romantic destination. Going into a marriage without understanding the laws in your state or country is like signing a business agreement without reading it because you trust the other person. The romance doesn't suspend the legal reality. If things go wrong, the state has a very specific opinion about how assets and children get handled. Know what you're signing before you sign it, not because you're planning to fail, but because informed decisions are better decisions. there's people out there that'll say like, don't get a prenup, like don't even bother, don't get married for one, right? Like I agree with that. But if you do get married, get a prenup, and then you'll have these guys go, well, prenups get thrown out all the time. Okay. If you guys ever listen to James Sexton, he says that's just not true. There are certain things that people will put in a contract or in a prenup that's not legally binding by the state. And so the state will like one line those things. So they'll selectively throw out things that they can't enforce or whatever, you know. For instance, you're not getting out of child support. You're not, at least not in the state of Colorado. So you could put in prenup that I'm not going to pay child support if you leave me, but the state says, no, you can't agree to that. That's our rule, right? And you also got to understand too, like, because some people that are really blue-pilled, a lot of Christians think this, that if you get a prenup, that you're setting yourself up for failure. And it's like, look, you either have a prenup that you two agree on, or the state gives you a prenup, right? Like, no matter what, you're going to either break up based on your rules or the state's rules. But either way, there's rules, and whose rules would you rather follow, right? So if you are going to pull that trigger, I still recommend getting a prenup. Just, I would, if you ever read The Tactical Guide to Women, he recommends having her get her own attorney, and then, you know, duking it out that way. That way she can't argue coercion or any of that kind of stuff like that. Also, a good book, especially if you're getting ready for a divorce, is read Nathan Mannion's book, Divorce is War. He's a Wolfpack brother. He wrote that book. I also like to give him a shout out. So marriage is a legal contract. Compatibility, desire, and respect are the only things that keep it functional. Every other metric people use to evaluate a relationship, shared values on paper, similar backgrounds, making it look good from the outside, means very little if those three things aren't real and ongoing. Compatibility isn't something you assess once at the beginning. It either holds up or changes over time, depending on how both people grow. You can't manufacture desire or respect after the fact. You either have them or you're managing their absence. I agree to a point, right? Because there is this like attraction scale. You know, if you guys ever, you know, tune in on Frame Fridays episodes, I talk about Hermetic philosophy a lot. And there's the concept of polarity, right? There's the law of polarity. And the law of polarity says, you know, like extremes meet, you know, all truths are but half truths. Everything is different, but only in degree. Okay. The same thing goes with attraction. Attraction exists on a scale. And as long as it's above the halfway mark on the scale, you can actually, you know, move her up the scale of desire, right? By working on your attractiveness. But if it falls below that, you're fucked, right? There's no pulling out once she's gone too far down that scale. So when he says you can't manufacture desire after the fact, he's right if her attraction's fallen below a 5, right? But if it's only fallen down to around the 5 or 6 range, you absolutely can bring it back up, okay? It's not fully gone. So I agree and disagree with that. But it's one of those things where desire can be inspired, right? And no one likes a quitter. And then he says the Voltron of theories problem. Guys will take a piece from one coach, a framework from another, a concept from a book, and stack them all together without asking whether they're actually compatible or pointing towards the same goal. The result is a worldview that is internally contradictory and impossible to apply because different parts of it tell you to do opposite things. Better to have one coherent philosophy that fits your actual goals than 15 borrowed ones that all come from someone else's situation. He's right. I agree with him on this. He's right and he's wrong, right? Like if you don't know what you want first, which is fundamentally the first thing that we talked about, if you don't know what you want first, then yeah, all these different ideas might conflict. There's a lot of nuance to the shit that we talk about in this space, right? If you don't know what you want first and then read the material that is most likely to get you there, and then if you don't test it out to see what works for you and what doesn't, then yeah, it's all fucking pointless and meaningless, right? It's all pointless and meaningless at the end of the day. Now, here's something, like I recommend reading, you know, my books 10 to 15 times. something I got from Corey Wayne, also something I learned from Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor did the same thing with Think and Grow Rich. He read it over and over again. And I found myself in a situation where I was consuming just tons of different books. And this, I go through patterns like this, and I'm sure you do too, where you read a book on a subject and then you really like this subject. So then you want to hear everyone's take on the subject, right? So you read a million different books based on this stuff. And then the thing is that once you start doing that, things start get confusing, because you're like, wait a second, this guy says this, but this guy says this. I don't know who to believe. Okay. Well, the only way to know what's what is to go out and practice this shit yourself, right? But I got to that place because I've been studying a lot of esoteric stuff lately, a lot of woo-woo shit. Because I'm writing another book right now called The Kybalion Revisited, and it's all on the Hermetic philosophy and how what we know about quantum theory fits into what the Hermetics believed in like ancient Egypt, right? And so one of the books that I've been reading a lot of books from Neville Goddard lately, and in the beginning of Feeling is the Secret, he's got this quote that I actually put at the beginning of this book, this little book, which I dropped in January. But he says, "He that would perfect himself in any art whatsoever, let him betake himself to the reading of some sure and certain work upon his art many times over. For to read many books upon your art produceth confusion rather than learning." It's an old saying. I wish like it didn't have to be in Old English too, but it's an old saying. So essentially, if the more books you read on a subject from different people, the more confused you're going to get. It's better to pick one book and read that 10 to 15 times before moving on to the next book, right? Because then you're going to really understand the fundamentals here. You can test this stuff out, whatever, and then move on, right? So that's essentially what Chesty is saying there, right? It's better to have one coherent philosophy that fits your goals than 15 borrowed ones that came from someone else's situation. By the way, guys, follow me on social media. The links are in the description. I'm on almost all the good platforms. Well, I'm still on the good ones. I'm not on the ones that banned me. So I'm not on X anymore. I'm not on Threads, but I am on Truth Social now, and I'm on Getter. So if you're on either of those platforms, they're a political cesspool, but I'm trying to fix that by putting some content on there that's not based around fucking politics. Follow me in the chat if you're sick of the bullshit there. Okay. Your goal determines which advice is relevant, right? Which goes back to knowing what you want first. Okay, so your goal determines which advice is relevant. Advice for a guy who wants to date casually is not the same as advice for a guy who wants to build something long-term with a woman. It can be though, right? Because what I talk about in Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18, it's about like the dating part is the same, whether you want to spin plates forever or not. Right. So that process would be the same. You're going to want to spin plates to let the cream rise to the top. But then it gets into the long-term relationship chapter, which is, okay, if this is your goal, then you're going to want a contenders list. And then you're going to have to understand how to maintain that attraction in the long term and stuff like that. Right. So you got to really know what you want first. But, a guy who just wants to date casually forever, he's not going to have to learn as much stuff as like you're not gonna have to learn all the fogging and Luca and all that kind of stuff if all you want to do is casually date. You're not gonna have to learn all that stuff. So he's right there. When you're consuming content without knowing which camp you're in, you end up applying casual dating tactics to someone who wants to keep, or I'm sorry, casual dating tactics to someone you want to keep, or long-term thinking to situations that don't call for it. Knowing your goal doesn't just help you take action. It also tells you which 80% of what you're consuming doesn't actually apply to you. Yeah. Women have social experience most men underestimate. So by the time most guys are starting to think seriously about social dynamics and attraction, the women they're interacting with have had 10 to 15 years to navigate male attention in real time. That goes back to people have been trying to fuck her since she was 13 and you're still playing catch up. But think about that though. Okay. If she has, if you're, let's say you're 45, you're just you're just going through a divorce. You haven't been dating in 20 plus years. You're out of practice. Now the women that you're going to be attracting are probably women that are in their 30s, right? They've had all this time dealing with men, interacting with men, and you still don't know how women operate. Like, and you're just now picking up a book. Like, you are way behind, brother. You are way fucking behind if you're just now picking up a book. You got a lot of fucking practice and catching up to do. Okay. You got a ton of practice and catching up to do. Let's see here. Mutual desire is what you're actually maintaining, which kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking before. But a lot of relationship advice focuses on tactics for getting something from a woman. But the more useful question is whether both people genuinely want each other on an ongoing basis. Desire isn't something you lock in at the beginning and then maintain through good behavior, right? That's what keep your bitch is about. And then the honest answer is usually the one you've been avoiding. Let's see here. When guys are confused about why the relationship isn't working, they usually already have a strong suspicion about the real answer. They're just hoping for a different one, right? They're hoping for the answer that doesn't require them to do any fucking work is usually what it comes down to. Most of what passes for confusion in these situations is actually reluctance. The information is there, but accepting it means having to do something about it. The cleaner move is to ask yourself what you already know, but haven't said out loud yet, because that's almost always where the actual problem is. That's right. Yeah. Most guys would rather blame other people, blame women, blame hyperbole, blame feminism, all this kind of stuff, instead of looking at how they've been showing up. You know what I mean? All right, guys, that's so those were all of Chesty's ideas. I hope I did them some justice. Like I said before, Chesty talked about all this type of stuff on Rob Says' channel a couple of years ago. So if you go to Rob Says, do a search for Rob Says on YouTube, and then look for, I think it's called the Salt Lake City Sit Down he did with Chesty on, I think it was a 2-day event. And he broke down a lot of the stuff, and Chesty is a fucking hoot. So I recommend going and checking that out, and give Rob a subscribe too. I haven't talked to that guy in a while. All right, what do we got in the chat? And then we'll wrap up here. And Ty says, wait, it's not Come On Man because of Biden? I'm out of here. Ty says, after the initial storm of shit tests and you pass them, she begins to relax and you start to sail on smoother waters. Yeah, they never fully go away, but the more you pass tests, the less they occur. And the more good you get at them, the more they stop seeming like tests to you. And they're just, silly whammies that women do. And you find it hilarious and you move past it. It's no big deal at all. The Heroes Forge says, been hearing good things about your work, man. Picked up one of your books to review. Looking forward to digging in. Oh, okay, cool. Caught a ban on X. Wild. Yes, I got banned back in November. And I think it was a technical glitch because they had just handed the algorithm over to Grok at the time. And literally like a couple of days after they handed the algorithm over to Grok, they flagged me. The algorithm flagged me for acting like a bot, which made no sense because, I do schedule content out, but that's not against their terms of service. And then every morning I get up and I comment on people's posts. And then I usually go and follow back people that like my posts and stuff, right? But apparently doing all that kind of shit is acting like a bot. And you're supposed to just post and never get seen, and you're never supposed to grow your account. And I don't know. Anyway, they banned me. And that was a really old account. That account was originally created probably 15 years ago. And I created it with a Proton Mail, like a free Proton Mail email address. And I never log into it. So I lost access to it. So I couldn't appeal it. So I started a new account. And I think this ban is because I violated their terms of service of going around the original ban. So anyway, I wasn't really getting a lot of value on X anyway, so it's not a big loss. Erkin says, I know Rob from his streams with the Dutch guy. What was his name? Jack Napier, that son of a bitch. Yeah. They do. I don't know if they think they still do it. They had red evenings on Friday nights, and I think they still do it. I don't know. It would be sad if they didn't, because I've been on red evening a bunch of times. It was a good show. All right, guys, that's all I got. Tune into the podcast Friday. It is pre-recorded, and it's Frame Friday, the most important episode of the week. You'll find it scheduled as a premiere in the videos tab on YouTube. I'm reading from Neville Goddard's Power of Awareness. His chapter is on free will. It's such a fascinating chapter, and I don't know if I get the point across that I wanted to, but it's still an interesting way to think about things, even if you don't believe what he's talking about. Okay, essentially, according to him, the only free will we really have is our freedom to choose. Freedom to choose what we want, the goals we want to have, and stuff like that. But then after that, reality is created based on our assumptions, and we can do nothing to stop it. Essentially, after we set the goal in place and we start focusing and start feeling that feeling, it starts the process of being created, and then everything else just happens, right? So your whole next day is all just, you don't get any choice in it. You might think you do, but really it's now determined. Okay. Is that true or not? No one really fucking knows. There's no way to prove any of this shit, right? But tune in on Friday. I'll let you decide. The pre-records will not be available on Kick since I can only stream to Kick and I can't upload, but I don't have a big following there anyway, so it's not a big loss, but it will be available on Rumble. So if you watch me on Rumble, tune in on Friday. That's all we got for this episode. Do be sure to like, subscribe, hit those notifications. I have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, even if they're pre-recorded. Nurse Chick and I are heading out to Vegas to see WrestleMania tomorrow. So we'll see you next week live on Friday.
This has been the
Wednesday.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. Now, go out and get it.